What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Beansworthy Entertainment. In this video, we're going to go over the noon games for Week 7 of the 2023 NFL season. I'm just a guy behind a camera saying what I think is going to happen based on the statistics and what I have seen this season. Hope everyone enjoys the video. Hit that like button if you did enjoy the video, and make sure to check out the other videos on my channel. If you like the content, hit that subscribe button. Be kind and respectful to others. Most of all, be kind and respectful to yourself. You're the number one person in this world. There's nobody more important than you. All right, let's go ahead and get into the first game here real quick. First game that we got on the list, we got the Washington Commanders going to the New York Giants. Now, the New York Giants, they are 1-5. The Washington Commanders, they are 3-3. We got a battle in the NFC East, but I don't think that it's going to be much of a battle. New York Giants have struggled this year, and Sam Howell has been actually performing as best that he can over there in Washington. Let's go into the stats. The Commanders, for offense, they've got 302 total yards per game. That is 22nd in the league. 214.2 passing yards per game. That is 16th in the league. 87.8 rushing yards per game. That is 25th in the league. They've got 14 touchdowns, 9 receiving, 5 rushing. Their receiving touchdowns, they're ranked 11th in the league. And for the rushing touchdowns, they're tied for 11th. They've got 84 points scored, but they've allowed 34 sacks. That is the most in the league. It's unfortunate, but we still see Sam Howell producing out there. On the other side, the Giants offense, we've got 265.5 total yards per game. That is 31st in the league. 166.7 passing yards per game. That's 31st in the league. 98.8 rushing yards per game. That is 21st in the league. They are the league's worst team when it comes to receiving touchdowns. They've only got 2, and they're tied for 20th with 3 rushing touchdowns. The Giants offense has only scored 30 points this year, and they've allowed more sacks than they have points. They have 33 sacks that they have allowed this year. And terrible to see it, but turnover-wise, the Commanders, they've given up 6 picks and 4 fumbles. The Giants, they've given up 6 picks and 2 fumbles. So they're about even there. The Giants have 2 less fumbles, but semantics there. They're pretty much about the same on how their offenses turn the ball over. But difference is that the Commanders actually have an offense that is generating points. Moving along. Let's go to the defense, and with the defense on the Commanders side, they have allowed 377.2 total yards per game. That is 29th in the league. They've allowed 248.2 passing yards per game. That is 27th in the league. And also 129 rushing yards per game is what they've allowed. That is 23rd in the league. They've allowed 16 touchdowns, 12 receiving, and 4 rushing. They've allowed 96 points, and they've only gotten 19 sacks. So, their point ratio for offense to defense isn't the greatest, but it gets even worse over than the Giants side. The Giants defense, they've allowed 364.5 total yards per game. That's 27th in the league. They've allowed 217 passing yards per game. That is 31st in the league, and they've allowed 133.3 rushing yards per game. That's 16th in the league. They've allowed 17 touchdowns. Sorry, I had to do the math there quick. They've allowed 17 touchdowns, 8 receiving touchdowns, 9 rushing touchdowns. They're almost worst in the league for rushing touchdowns, but they've allowed 102 points. That ratio is actually just so bad. The defense actually has 1 pick six, though, for the Giants, and they've got 5 sacks over there. I don't know what I thought. Well, I do. I thought the Giants were going to do better this year. I did not see them sitting at 1-5, but honestly, after what has unfolded this season, I I get what's going on, and I kind of feel dumb. But gonna keep the video going. And on the defensive side of the ball, the Commander, they've got 5 interceptions and 3 fumbles. On the Giants side, they've got 3 interceptions and 2 fumbles. It means that the Commanders have a turnover differential of -2. The Giants, they have a turnover differential of -3 because their defense might not have gotten as many turnovers as the Commanders did, but that 2 less fumbles actually makes the turnover differential kind of a little bit better. Both kickers for both teams are perfect for their extra points. There's a couple of missed field goals. Both kickers are around the neighborhood of 75% efficiency rate for field goals. Commanders got 39 points from their kicker. Giants got 35. Yep, and that's all that's there. Let's break down the stat leaders for both teams in this matchup. On the Commanders side, we got Sam Howell beat Brian Robinson Jr. and Scary Terry. And then over on the Giants side, we got Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and Darren Waller. And there's also speculation that there might be a trade between the Ravens and the Giants to acquire Saquon Barkley. And honestly, I really don't want to see that. But if the Ravens do go and get Saquon Barkley, they have a massive need at running back. I feel like Saquon could be the answer. And all of a sudden, my tier list of predicting that the Ravens get to the Super Bowl is a little bit more relevant. But moving on, let's get into the stats. For the quarterbacks, Sam Howell has 145 completions over 214 attempts. He's an even 1,500 yards for 9 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Daniel Jones, he's got 104 completions on 151 attempts, 884 yards, 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So Daniel Jones, he's not having a good year. He's having a subpar year as usual, if not arguably a bad year. Moving on to the running backs, Brian Robinson, many men. He's got 77 carries for 302 yards, 3 touchdowns. Saquon's got 53 carries for 207 yards and 1 touchdown. And the receivers, Scary Terry, he's got 31 catches for 342 yards. Darren Waller, he's got 28 catches for 282 yards. Scary Terry also has a touchdown. And then we got ESPN that has the Commanders at 61.4% winning this one. Vegas has the over-under at 37.5, and the Commanders favored by 3. I mean, the Commanders, their losses have been against their Bills, Eagles, and Bears. The Bills and Eagles, tough teams. Bears, I think what happened with the Bears is that was an immaculate week for Justin Fields and DJ Moore, in my opinion. So that was just an odd game where they had another player on the other side of the ball. And I don't think that was the Commanders' defense doing bad that game. I think that was just Justin Fields finally feeling himself. DJ Moore was getting open. Those two just had a good game. The Bears got their first win of the season on Thursday Night Football. It was pretty good to see. But the Commanders have beat the Cardinals, beat the Broncos, and beat the Falcons. Nothing really spectacular to say there. On the other side of the ball, the only win the Giants have is against the Cardinals, and that's definitely not anything to brag about. They've lost to the Cowboys, 49ers, Seahawks, Dolphins, and Bills. So the Giants have had a pretty tough schedule. All of those teams, except for the Cardinals, in my opinion, are top 10 in the league this year. So that could probably explain the rough start, but still, this is the NFL and you've got to compete. And unfortunately, the Giants just aren't competing this year. Daniel Jones is having issues. Saquon Barkley's getting talked in trades. It's unfortunate. You hate to see it, but that's how the game goes. Going to the injuries, the Commanders, they do not have any injuries. On the Giants side, we got Joshua Ezeudu. I'm sorry if I completely chopped that up, but Josh is on the IR. Matt Pearl, he is ruled out. Daniel Jones, Adoree Jackson, and Evan Neal, those three are questionable for the game, so kind of watch that. I'm definitely going to be watching it because I've got Daniel Jones in a couple of fantasy leagues. I was hoping that he was going to have a good year, honestly, but should have seen that coming. But in this one, I'm gonna go with Vegas. I'm going with ESPN. I'm gonna go ahead and take the Commanders. I'm gonna hit the over with this one because of the fact of the defenses not being that great. Commanders, I'd say that they get like 27 points, and the Giants get 18. 27 to 18. Lock that in. I like that. $27 to 18. Lock that in for the Giants, and that will be it for the Giants against the Commanders. All right. Next game we got up is the Lions going to Baltimore to play the Ravens. This is first in the NFC North versus first in the AFC North. So battle of the North. In the Lions, they are ranked 4th on the power rankings. In the Ravens, they're ranked 9th. Lions are 5-1. Baltimore Ravens are 4-2. And let's go over the numbers. The Lions on the offense, they've got 383.7 total yards per game. That is 3rd in the league. They've also got 259.5 passing yards per game. That is 4th in the league. 124.2 rushing yards per game for 8th in the league. They've also got 20 touchdowns in total for 120 points scored. They've got 11 receiving touchdowns and 9 rushing touchdowns out there in Detroit. And they've only allowed 10 sacks. So that offensive line is doing its job. Over on the Ravens side, we got 339.2 total yards per game. That is 11th in the league. Passing isn't doing great. They're only at 194.3 passing yards per game. That is 24th in the league. And rushing the ball, they've got 144.8 rushing yards per game. That is 5th in the league. And they've got 14 touchdowns that they've scored for 84 points, 5 receiving, 9 rushing touchdowns. They've only allowed 16 sacks, so that's around the good area. Kind of middle ground, but it's just a little bit of improvement on the offensive line, and they'll be all right. Nothing to be concerned about. The turnovers, not too bad for the Lions. The Lions have 3 interceptions and 3 fumbles that they've given up this year. The Ravens, though, they've given up 6 fumbles. That might be a little bit alarming about ball security, but they've got they've only given up 3 interceptions, so they're both even on the interception category. Moving to the defense on the Lions side, they've allowed 285.9 total yards per game. That is 7th in the league. And they've allowed 221 passing yards per game. That is 18th in the league. And only have allowed 64.7 rushing yards per game. So that is the best in the league. And we take that back and we also look at the fact that I said that the Ravens are 5th in the league for their rushing yards per game. I feel like the Lions might have the advantage over the Ravens on this one. Granted, hold on. I've got to tell you the stats on the defensive side for the Ravens. But while we're still on the Lions have only allowed 11 touchdowns. They've allowed 8 receiving, 3 rushing. They've only allowed 66 points. That defense has 1 pick six, and they've gotten 15 sacks. I mean, defensive line could be a little bit better, but they are stopping that run game. The passing defense could be a little bit better, but Ravens are 24th in the league for passing offense. It's gonna be. I feel like this is lining up to the Lions side a lot until you get to the defense of the Ravens. The Ravens are right behind the Browns. The Browns got the best defense in the league, but then you got the Ravens. The Ravens have only allowed 260.8 total yards per game. That is second in the league. They've only allowed 163.2 passing yards per game. That is second in the league. And they've only allowed 97.7 rushing yards per game. That is ninth in the league. They have the league best tied for the league best, to be correct, among the touchdowns that they've allowed, because they've only allowed 5 touchdowns for 30 points. They've only allowed 4 receiving touchdowns and just 1 rushing touchdown. The defense has 1 safety and 24 sacks. So, when you look at that, that is unstoppable force meets an immovable object is probably what we're going to see in this game. But again, I feel like with the fact that the Ravens rely on their rushing attack a lot, and the Lions are the best in the league at rushing defense, I have a feeling that that's going to be a major factor in this one. Turnover-wise, they are pretty close on defense. The Lions, they've gotten 6 interceptions and 2 fumbles, and like I said, they've got 1 pick six. The Ravens, they've got 5 interceptions and 3 fumbles. So the turnover differential for the Lions is -1, and over on the Ravens side, it is +2. Or that should be plus. No, I got those two flipped around. My bad, everybody. It's the Ravens that have -1, and I could have just done the simple math. Sorry, again, organic and just natural. We're going to go ahead and leave that one in there. But the Lions have +2 turnover differential. The Ravens have a -1. ESPN has the Ravens favored by 54%. And also Vegas has the over-under at 43 and the Ravens favored by 3. But I'm going to go against that. I think the Lions are going to end up having an incredible game. When I say that unstoppable force meets an unmovable object, I feel like Dan Campbell and that team will prevail. They'll figure out what they need to do, and that's simple as that. Going through, let's break down the stat leaders for this matchup. On the Detroit side, we got Jared Goff, David Montgomery, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. On the Ravens side, we got Lamar Jackson for both passing and rushing, and then Zay Flowers for receiving. And then going into the numbers, Jared Goff has 141 completions on 203 attempts for 1,618 yards. He's got 11 touchdowns for just those 3 interceptions. On the other side, Lamar Jackson has 121 completions for 173 attempts. He's thrown it for 1,253 yards. He's got 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions as well. The running backs, David Montgomery has almost hit 100 carries. He's at 94 carries for 385 yards and 6 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, he's got 60 carries for 327 yards and 4 touchdowns. So Lamar's doing his thing this year, and unfortunately, I feel like he's going to get shut down with that rushing defense. I'm sorry to the Ravens fans that I know out there, but I'm basing my judgment off of these numbers that I'm looking at and what I've seen this year. But the receiving category, Amon-Ra has 38 catches for 455 yards and 3 touchdowns. Zay Flowers has 35 catches for 367 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, let's go into the schedule. The Lions, like I said, they're 5-1. The one loss they had was against the Seahawks, which I felt was kind of a little bit of a fluke. But again, I'm going to put the Seahawks up there in that top tier of teams. So I'm not going to see anything alarming from that one loss. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Buccaneers. And then you got the Panthers, Falcons, Packers, mid-tier teams, and then a couple of one good team, and then the Chiefs are elite. So that week one win, that shocked everybody. But on the other side with the Ravens, the only teams that they've lost to was that overtime upset against the Colts, and then the Steelers took care of them in Pittsburgh. But they have beat the Texans, the Bengals, the Browns, and the Titans. So even being a Browns fan, I'd say that the most impressive win out of that is probably the win over the Texans. They only escaped with a 3-point lead win over the Bengals. 8 points over the Titans. So these are close games. And I'm not going to knock the Ravens at all because I got to respect that defense. They're right there with us. The top 2 defenses are in the AFC North. Who would have thought that? But let's get into the injuries for the Lions. We have Josh Pascal, that's on IR. CJ Gardner-Johnson still on IR. Jonah Jackson and David Montgomery are going to be out this game. And Craig Reynolds, he is questionable to fill in for a spot with the absence of David Montgomery. Over on the Ravens side, we got Kevin Seymour and Marcus Williams that are both out. They are not going to be playing. And with that, we get to go down and let's make a prediction. Since we've got great defenses here, I'm going with the under on this one, but I'm not taking the Ravens, and that's not because they're a rival of the Browns. I just think the Lions are going to prevail over that defense because of the fact that the Ravens don't have a passing game. And if they're going to try and run the ball the entire game against the team that is ranked best in the league against the rushing game, just looking at the numbers, I feel like the Lions are going to prevail, but it's going to be a really low-scoring game. It's going to be gritty. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the Lions at 24 and the Ravens 13. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go with that. Also, Tucker has missed 1 extra point and 2 field goals. I don't know I need to start looking up these kickers' names so I actually know who they are. I used to know all of the kickers, but all of a sudden there's a couple of new kids that are in the league now. But the Lions kicker is perfect for extra points, and he's only missed 1 field goal. The Lions have 42 points from their kicker, and Justin Tucker on the Ravens side has 45 points. But yeah, again, lock that in. 24-13. Lions win. And that is with the under. Just had to go ahead and double check that. That is it for that game. Let's move on. And the next game we got is the Bills versus the Patriots. The Buffalo Bills, they are ranked number 7 on the power rankings, and the Patriots, they are ranked 29th. The Bills are 4-2 and second in the AFC East. The Patriots are 1-5 and last in the AFC East. We're starting to see something that's a little bit different now. We're seeing a Bill Belichick-led Patriots actually struggle. Buffalo Bills, they're having their own struggles, but they have their games where they look good. Unfortunately, I don't want to say that game last week against the Giants, I don't think that was the Giants outperforming themselves. I don't think that was the Giants doing good. I think that was the Bills doing bad. So again, we've got the issues with the Josh Allen inconsistencies. Love the guy, but that's just been facts about him. When you look at his numbers, the man is not a consistent NFL quarterback, but he is a good NFL quarterback nonetheless. Diving in, let's go to the Bills. Let's go into their offensive numbers, talking about Josh Allen. 274.8 total yards per game. That is 5th in the league. 256.7 passing yards per game. That is 8th in the league. So their average, they're ranked 8th in the league. So like I said, Josh Allen good, but there's a couple of games where it's just like, what Josh Allen is this? That it's a little weird, but 118.2 rushing yards per game. That is 12th in the league. And they've got 20 touchdowns for 120 points scored. 9 sacks have been allowed by that offensive line. Love to see that. Great to see a team that is six games in that is less than double digits. Gotta love seeing that, a team that's got a single digit sacks allowed. But the Bills, they've given up 13 receiving touchdowns and 7 rushing they've gotten 13 receiving touchdowns and 7 rushing touchdowns. Come on, Beans, we're on the offense. Over on the Patriots side, they've got 282.7 total yards per game. That's 27th in the league. 199 passing yards per game. That is 22nd in the league. 83.7 rushing yards per game. That is 26th in the league. And they've only gotten 8 touchdowns in total, 5 receiving, 3 rushing, 48 points scored. They've only allowed 14 sacks, so that doesn't look too bad. Turnover-wise, though, Bills, they've given up 6 interceptions and 3 fumbles, so that's 6 interceptions. Josh Allen has to figure that out. And I know that's also taking into effect that was that Week 1 Jets game where I'm almost positive that he thought that, I think it was Whitehead, but whoever it was, that was the defensive back for the New York Jets. He just kept throwing it to him. I don't know. Maybe he just got confused. But anyway, over to the Patriots side, they're a little bit worse. They've given up 7 interceptions and 4 fumbles. And that would be that for the turnovers on the offense. Moving down, we've got the Bills defense. They have allowed 232.8 total yards per game. That is 12th in the league. They've allowed 190.2 passing yards per game, which is 7th in the league. And 133.7 rushing yards per game allowed. That is 25th in the league. So they got a pretty all right. I mean, defense looks all right until you look at the rushing yards per game. They've allowed 8 touchdowns, 4 receiving and 4 rushing. They're tied for best in the league for receiving touchdowns. They've got 48 points that they've allowed. 1 pick six, as the Bills defense has gotten 8 interceptions and 5 fumbles. And again, that's 1 pick six, and the Bills have gotten 24 sacks. So not too bad. That definitely fixes up and makes up for the mistakes that have been made on the offensive side for the Bills. But unfortunately, over on the Patriots side, their defense might be all right, but the Patriots have only gotten 2 interceptions and 1 fumble. That's not good. The turnover differential on that, they are at -8. They are amongst a couple of teams that are worst in the league. But the numbers wise, they've only allowed 206.7 total yards per game. That's 10th in the league. They've allowed 202.7 passing yards per game. That is 12th in the league. They've allowed 104 rushing yards per game. That is 15th. And they've only allowed 11 touchdowns, 6 receiving and 5 rushing. That's 66 points that they've allowed. So, they also got 1 safety, and they've gotten 12 sacks. So looking at the defensive side, the Patriots aren't that bad. Maybe it might be just Mac Jones isn't the quarterback that they thought he was when we drafted him. And I know that he's had a couple of years And he's had some time. He's had some time to prove himself in the league, but I think it's about that time to go ahead and give up on him being relevant at all. But speaking of him, let's go ahead and dive into the offensive leaders for these two teams. On the Bills side, we have Josh Allen, James Cook, and Stephon Diggs. For the Patriots, we got Mac Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, and Kendrick Bourne. And then the numbers, Josh Allen, 147 completions on 205 attempts. He has 1,576 yards, 13 touchdowns, but 6 interceptions. He's got it's a 2-to-1 ratio for touchdowns. But Mac Jones not any better. Actually, quite worse. Mac Jones 129 completions on 201 attempts. He's got 1,208 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Just numbers right there. Those turnovers, and especially if your defense isn't getting the ball back, it's not a recipe for success. For the running backs, James Cook, he's got 75 carries for 363 yards and 1 touchdown. Ramondre Stevenson, he's got 78 carries for 234 yards and 2 touchdowns. Receiving, Stephon Diggs has 49 catches for 620 yards and 5 touchdowns. Kendrick Bourne, he's got 28 catches, 307 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, he's doing absolutely great this year. Love to see it. And if you have him in fantasy, I bet that you're not disappointed with his performance this year. Moving on, again, the turnover differential, the Bills have a +4 turnover differential. Their kicker has not missed an extra point. He's missed 2 field goals, so there's 47 points that have come from the kicker for the Buffalo Bills. Patriots, on the other hand, their kicker has made every single one of their extra points, but he's missed 4 field goals on 9 attempts. So he's only 5 for 9. They've only got 22 points from him, and he's rocking 55.6% efficiency rate for field goals. That's tough. You do need your kicker that if you're going to get down the field and give him an opportunity, you got to get those points on the board if you decide to go for it. The Bills schedule wise, they've only lost to the Jets and Jaguars, and we can argue the fact that one possession defeat against the Jets could have something to do with the fact that Josh Allen threw the ball to the other team 3 times. Jaguars, that loss was at the beginning of them. That was them over in London, the second game. Jaguars are red hot, in my opinion, right now. But we got the wins. We got the Raiders. The Bills have beat the Raiders, Commanders, Dolphins, and Giants. So 50-50 on that one. Dolphins, definitely a good team, but the Dolphins defense really isn't that great, so putting up those numbers on them doesn't surprise me. I'm not what would the term be? Oh, my brain is failing me right now. Or I mean, to put it, I expect them to beat the Raiders, Commanders, and Giants the way that they did. But like I said, the Giants this last weekend and everything was just a one possession, and it looked tough. It looked like the Giants were actually giving the Bills a hard time, but I feel like that was just Josh Allen having an off game. Again, that inconsistency definitely is the Achilles heel of the Buffalo Bills, and I think that's going to be the downfall of them in the playoffs, because you have to have Josh Allen go the entire amount of the playoff. That 4 games. at least 4 games straight. You gotta have Josh Allen. But the thing is that I guarantee one of those games, he's gonna show his offside. But enough beating on Josh Allen. I'm sorry about that, Josh. Going over to the Patriots side, the only win the Patriots have is against the Jets, who the Bills lost to. If the Patriots end up upsetting the Bills, I might throw a party. I don't know. But yeah, the only win that the Patriots have is against the Jets. They've lost to the Eagles, Dolphins, Cowboys, Saints, and Raiders. A couple of those teams are very good. A couple other ones, they could have pulled off the win. But unfortunately, they still sit at 1-5. For injuries on the Buffalo side, we've got Damian Harris on IR still. Quentin Morris and Ed Oliver are out. Cam Lewis is questionable. And then on the Patriots side, Tyrone Wheatley Jr. is still on the IR, or I think that he actually just got placed on the IR. I can't. Shoot. But either way, he's on the IR. Josh Uche, he is out. And Kayshon Boutte, he is questionable. Jonathan Jones is questionable. And Mike Onwenu is questionable. Vegas has the Bills favored by 7.5. The over-under is 40. And ESPN has the Bills favored by 82.5. We could have an upset on our hands, and I'll throw a party. But this second in the AFC East, last in the AFC East, 4-2 versus 1-5. I'm going with the Bills all day. Taking the under on the Bills all day because there's still that good defense. Patriots offense just isn't that good, so I just go with the under because I feel like this is going to be immediate. Like, it's not going to be low scoring, but it's not going to hit that over. So, like, I'd say about, like, Buffalo Bills 28, Patriots 10 points. Like, it's going to be something like that. I'll go ahead and lock that in. The Buffalo Bills 28, New England Patriots 10 points. Bills get the dub, go on to 5-2. And that'll be that for this game. Give me one more second. I've got to go and let my dog in because she is barking, and I guarantee that you guys can hear it. 1 second. All right, we are back, and we are halfway done. 3 games down, 3 games to go. In this next game, we got the Falcons that are going to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. The Falcons slid a lot in the power rankings. They are down to 22. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they are ranked 12th in the league. This is really interesting to me considering the fact that the Falcons are 3-3 and the Buccaneers are 3-2. Now, I get there has been a couple of questionable losses on the Falcons side that I believe they should have won. But Buccaneers, yep, they got first in the NFC South. Falcons, they've got second. They can actually take first if they win this game. But let's dive into the numbers. The Falcons, we've got 331 total yards per game. That is 16th in the league. 212 passing yards per game. That is 18th in the league. And 119 rushing yards per game for 10th in the league. They've scored 10 touchdowns altogether, 6 receiving and 4 rushing for 60 points altogether. They've allowed 19 sacks, so that's a little questionable, a little alarming, to put a better term on that. But over on the Buccaneers side, they've got 291.4 total yards per game That's 25th in the league. They also got 212.6 passing yards per game. That's 17th in the league, but only 78.8 rushing yards per game. That's 29th in the league, and they've only scored 8 touchdowns this year, 7 receiving and only 1 rushing touchdown. 48 points have been scored, but they've only allowed 5 sacks. That is amazing. That is great to be 5. They've only allowed 1 sack a game average. So that is absolutely amazing. The turnover side of the ball, the Buccaneers are way better for offense. They've only given up 3 interceptions and 1 fumble, where the Falcons, they've given up 6 interceptions and 4 fumbles. So you look at that, and you're turning the ball over that much. Desmond Ridder, I mean, he's had a couple of games where he looks like a real quarterback this year. I hope that he ends up actually coming to form, because just would like to see that kid have success in the league. It's unfortunate to see someone struggle. Just don't like to see it. On the defensive side of the ball for the Falcons, they've allowed 278.2 total yards per game. That is 4th in the league. They've allowed 179.2 passing yards per game, which is 4th in the league. 99 rushing yards per game. That is 11th in the league that they've allowed. And they've only given up 11 touchdowns altogether. 10 receiving touchdowns and only 1 rushing touchdown. They've allowed 66 points, so their point ratio is about even. They've gotten 10 sacks, so they could do a little bit better with the pass rush, but take what you can get. Over on the Buccaneers side of the over there for the Buccaneers defense. Sorry. They've allowed 330.8 total yards per game. That is 14th in the league. And they've allowed 247 passing yards per game. That is 26th in the league. And also allowed 83.8 rushing yards per game. That is 7th in the league. So they're really good at defending the run over there in Tampa. And with Vita Vea and all those the linebackers that they got over there. My mind is failing me right now. But turnover wise, the Buccaneers, they've gotten 6 interceptions and 4 fumbles on defense. And the Falcons, they've got 3 interceptions and 1 fumble. One of the interceptions for the Buccaneers, they've taken back for a pick 6. And they've gotten 15 sacks on defense. So a little bit of average numbers for sacks on the defensive side of the ball. The turnover differential, though, for the Falcons, they are -6, and the Buccaneers are +6. So I feel like that is going to be a really big factor in this game. Their kickers are about the same. I mean, for the Falcons, Younghoe Koo has only missed 1 extra point and 1 field goal. Over on the Buccaneers side, their kicker has only missed 1 field goal. 7 for 7 for 100% on his extra points. 34 points off of the Buccaneers from the Buccaneers kicker. 37 points from Younghoe Koo. ESPN has this being a close one, but they do have the Buccaneers favored at 52.5%. And Vegas also has the Buccaneers favored by 2.5. The over-under is 37. Let's break down the stat leaders for this matchup. For Atlanta, we've got Desmond Ridder, Bijan Robinson, and Drake London. Buccaneers, we got Baker Mayfield, Rachaad White, and Mike Evans. Good Lord, if we would have only been patient with Baker Mayfield. But I digress. Desmond Ridder, he's 130 completions on 203 attempts for 1,380 yards. He's got an even touchdown to interception ratio right now. He's 6 touchdowns for 6 interceptions. But he's still working out the kinks, honestly. Mariota had the offense last year. Now this is his first actual year having the offense, or having the offseason and then coming in and doing it. So there's going to be some kinks to work out. I just hope that these kinks get worked out and that the kid ends up actually being productive in the NFL. I don't want to see him being another dud. Baker Mayfield, he's got 106 completions for 162 attempts for 1,088 yards, 7 touchdowns on 3 interceptions. I love to see that ratio. For the running backs, Bijan Robinson has 80 carries for 401 yards, and he still has yet to get a receiving touchdown. Or a rushing touchdown. My bad. He's only got receiving touchdowns, is what I was gonna say. But when's he gonna get his first rushing touchdown? I wonder. Will that be today? But they've only, like I said, the Buccaneers have only allowed 2 rushing touchdowns this season through 6 games, or through 5. They're through 5 games. They've already had a bye week, so hopefully soon Bijan gets his first rushing touchdown. But at least he's got a couple of receiving touchdowns. On the Tampa Bay side, moving forward, we got Rachaad White that had 70 carries for 232 yards and 1 touchdown. And then for receiving, we got Drake London with 26 catches, 329 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Mike Evans, as usual, leading the team. 24 receptions, 386 yards, and 3 touchdowns for Mike Evans. Going to the schedule now on the Falcons side. The Falcons have only lost to the Lions, the Jags, and the Commanders. Now the Commanders is questionable. Jaguars, they might have been able to, but that was also game 1 in London where the Jaguars started their hot streak. So that could have been just the catalyst. I don't think that they did bad. I just think the Jaguars did that good. The wins aren't spectacular on the Falcons side, though, either. They've only beat the Packers, Panthers, and Texans. Texans was a 1-score game. And I feel like Atlanta and Houston, there's a couple of teams that are in the same boat that you could say are quite similar, but also the Falcons, they don't have any injuries at all on their side of the ball. Over on the Buccaneers side, looking at their schedule, they've only lost to the Eagles and Lions, so that might be where the ranking is a little bit better. But in my opinion, looking at their wins, Vikings, Bears, and Saints, they're not impressive. They're not impressive wins. But the losses that they have were kind of expected. For the injuries on the Buccaneers side, we got Anthony Nelson and Vita Vea that are both questionable, so we're gonna have to watch that as we go into the noon games. I feel like Vita is gonna play. I was looking that up before making this video, but I'm pretty sure that Vita Vea is going to be in for this game. Now, for a score, it is going to be a close game, and that over-under is 37. Buccaneers are favored by Vegas. I'm going to go ahead and take that, but I'm going to go with the under for this one. Again, another under. I'd say that we get to like Buccaneers. I'm definitely taking the Buccaneers on this one. Excuse me, everybody. I had an itch on my nose. Just let me go ahead. Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. Well, I'll go ahead. Let's go ahead and lock in Buccaneers 19, Falcons 14. I'll go ahead with that. I feel like that's a good I think that's good. Lock that in. Buccaneers 19, Falcons 14. Buccaneers win. Moving on, the next one, we got the Raiders going against the Bears. This game is going to be interesting. The Raiders, they're ranked 23rd on the power rankings. They're 3-3, second in AFC West. Chicago Bears, 30th. They just lost to the Vikings to take the spot last in NFC North. I live by Chicago, and I've got a bunch of friends that are Bears fans, and it's just tough to see this year. And I hope things get figured out, but honestly, looks like they need to clean house again. I don't know what's going on in that front office, but they're not making the best decisions out there in Chicago. Let's get into the numbers. And the Raiders side, we got 292.3 total yards per game. That is 24th in the league. We got 218.8 passing yards per game, which is 14th in the league. Or total yards per game is 24th in the league. Passing is 14th in the league. I think I might have messed that up. But 73.5 rushing yards per game, 31st in the league. Josh Jacobs ain't doing that great this year. They've got 10 touchdowns that they've scored, 7 receiving, 3 rushing, 60 points that have been scored by their offense, and 15 sacks have been allowed. That's about average, so nothing really too alarming there to look at. And those numbers are in this, looking at the sacks. The Bears, though, on their side for offense, they've got 324.5 total yards per game. That's 18th in the league. They got 188.5 passing yards per game, which is 26th in the league. And they have 136 rushing yards per game. That is 7th in the league. They have scored 14 touchdowns, 11 receiving touchdowns, and 3 rushing touchdowns. Yet again, there's a big boost in that because of the fact of DJ Moore's massive game on Thursday Night Football that he had against the Commanders. But 84 points scored, that ain't bad. 25 sacks allowed, though. They definitely need to work on the production for Justin Fields, or Justin Fields needs to find his way out of the pocket better. Turnover-wise, for the Raiders, they've given up 9 interceptions and 3 fumbles. The Bears have given up 7 interceptions and 4 fumbles. So both teams aren't really good in the turnover department on offense. Moving forward, let's go to the Raiders defense. They've allowed 315.3 total yards per game this year. That is 11th in the league. They've only allowed 193.7 passing yards per game this year. That is 8th in the league. But 121.7 rushing yards per game. That is 21st in the league. And the Bears are ranked 130 or ranked 7th with their rushing offense. So we'll have to see how that ends up going. 15 touchdowns have been allowed by the Raiders defense, 8 receiving touchdowns and 7 rushing touchdowns. That is 90 points that have been allowed, and they've gotten 1 safety and 13 sacks. Max Crosby, last weekend, got that game-sealing safety sack to go ahead and put the nail in the coffin against the Patriots. But that's still the Patriots. But on the Bears side of the ball, their defense ain't doing that great, except for that they've been able to stop the run. They've allowed 356.8 total yards per game. That is 25th in the league. Also, they've allowed 267.3 passing yards per game, which is 29th in the league. And like I said, their rushing defense is actually doing the job. They've only allowed 89.5 rushing yards per game. That is 8th in the league. They've allowed 17 touchdowns this year, 13 receiving touchdowns, and only 4 rushing touchdowns. But that's still 102 points that the defense has allowed this year, and they've only gotten 9 sacks. So that's a little bit alarming that they've got those numbers. Turnover-wise, the Raiders, they've only got 5 interceptions on defense. And the Bears, they've got 3 interceptions and have picked up 2 fumbles. Turnover differential for the Raiders is -7, and the turnover differential for the Bears is -6. The Bears kicker is perfect, 12 for 12 extra points, 10 for 10 field goals. They've got 42 points from him. On the Raiders side, the extra points perfect, and only 2 missed field goals for 36 points for them over on that side of the ball. Let's go into the stat leaders for these teams. And for the Raiders, we got Jimmy Garoppolo, Josh Jacobs, and Davante Adams. And for the Bears, we got Justin Fields, Khalil Herbert, and DJ Moore. And for the quarterbacks, Jimmy has 100 completions on 147 attempts for 1,079 yards. That's 7 touchdowns, but still got those 8 interceptions that he has thrown. Justin Fields, he's 100 completions for 162 attempts, 1,201 yards, 11 touchdowns, but he's still got those 6 interceptions. For the running backs, we got Josh Jacobs that has 107 carries, but only 312 yards to show for it. He does have 2 touchdowns, though. Khalil Herbert, he's got 51 carries and 272 yards. He still has yet to get a rushing touchdown this year. Receiving, DJ Moore has 32 catches, 582 yards for 5 touchdowns. That great game on Thursday night against the Commanders. And then Davante Adams has 39 catches for 471 yards and 3 touchdowns. The schedule-wise, Raiders, they've lost to the Bills, Steelers, and Chargers. They've beat the Broncos, Packers, and Patriots. So not impressive wins, and not surprising that they lost to the teams that they lost to. That's the reason they're in the situation that they're in right now. On the Bears side, they got that win against the Commanders where DJ Moore and Justin Fields absolutely balled out. But Packers, Buccaneers, Chiefs, Broncos, Vikings, they're not playing anybody that's absolutely spectacular. Again, I don't know what they've got to do, but they better get it figured out and everything. At least they do have the Carolina Panthers #1 overall pick. So, bright side to that, you've got draft capital, and the Carolina Panthers are still doing bad as well. So you're going to get some high draft picks if it keeps on going this way and the Bears just don't do anything this year. Just pray that also the Carolina Panthers stay on that train as well. You guys could get #1 and #2. Injury wise on the Raiders side, we've got Roderick Teamer who's on IR. Jimmy G, Nate Hobbs, and Jacorian Bennett, they are all 3 ruled out. They will not be playing. On the Bears side, we've got Roschon Johnson, Eddie Jackson, Terrell Smith, and Nate Davis that are all ruled out. And Jaquan Brisker is questionable. We'll see if he's ready to go for tomorrow's game. ESPN has the Bears favored by 61%, but Vegas has the Raiders favored by 2.5. The over-under is 37.5. Honestly, this is a toss-up. Bears got a good rushing defense. Raiders got a good passing defense. But what really stands out to me in this matchup is the fact that the Raiders don't have a good rushing defense and the Bears have a good rushing offense. So, tight game. If the Bears can get out in the lead first, I feel like they can coast on that rushing attack. And as long as the defense holds up, but in that effect, yeah, that's the reason. Hold on, that's the reason why Vegas has that favored so well, is because 193.7 passing yards per game, and that's 8th. The Raiders are 8th in the league for passing defense, while the Bears are 26th. So it's going to be hard. And this is just going to be a tough, low-scoring game. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and Let's go with the Raiders on this one. I'm going to go with the Raiders on this one, and we're going to lock in 17-14. Raiders win 17-14. Or actually, no, lock in 13 for the Bears. 2 touchdowns seems a little bit much. But no, 17-13. Raiders win. That's it for that game. And let's get on. Last game that we have for this video, we got my Browns that are going to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. And the Browns coming off of that spectacular win against the 49ers. I couldn't believe it. That was amazing. And business was usual. You can say that the injuries might have had something to do with it. And, well, I mean, there's people that are out there that say that the only reason that they won was because of the injuries. And I'm just like, there's other people that are on the team. You guys were undefeated. We just smothered Brock Purdy. It was the first time that Brock Purdy has seen an actual defense this year that gave him problems. I'm not saying that any of the other defenses aren't actual defenses, actually, to come back. The Browns are the number 1 defense in the league, and they proved it. And that defensive line with Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, Dalvin Tomlinson, those guys are putting in work. I love to see it. But yeah, the Browns, they are number 10 on the power rankings. Colts are number 21. The Browns are 3-2. The Colts are 3-3. Let's go into the Browns' offensive numbers. The Browns, they've got 319.8 total yards per game. That's 19th in the league. 172.8 passing yards per game. 30th in the league. Not surprising there. But even without Nick Chubb, thank God for Kareem Hunt from coming back. Jerome Ford has stepped up greatly. We got 147 rushing yards per game for the Browns. That is 4th in the league. They got 8 touchdowns scored on the year, 4 receiving and 4 rushing. They've gotten 48 points from their offense and but they've allowed 18 sacks. Kind of middle of the road when you think about it there. But going over to the Colts offense, we got 345.3 total yards per game for the Colts offense. That is 10th in the league. 228.7 passing yards per game. That is 10th in the league. 116.7 rushing yards per game. That is 14th in the league. They have scored 14 touchdowns this year, 6 receiving and 8 rushing touchdowns. They've scored 84 points and allowed 15 sacks. So couple less sacks than the Browns this year. But turnover-wise, the Browns have given up 7 interceptions and 5 fumbles. It's not going so well, and they lost Nick Chubb against the Steelers. It's tough for the offense that's out there. Deshaun Watson is dealing with a shoulder injury. We've got our 3rd string out there again for the 2nd straight week. I hope that they can pull it off. PJ Walker, thoughts and prayers, man. Please, just do your job. I'm not gonna get mad at you. Whatever happens. You're just a man that's out there doing your job. Now, defensive-wise, again, Browns, they are number 1. They've only allowed 200.4 total yards per game. That is the best in the league. 121.4 passing yards per game, which is the best in the league. They're only allowing 79 rushing yards per game, 3rd in the league. The only category that they're not best in, but they're still ranked 3rd. They've allowed only 7 touchdowns, 4 receiving and 3 rushing, and they've only allowed 42 points. So their point ratio is still positive with the offense even doing what they're doing. The Browns defense has gotten 15 sacks this year. So they're doing what they need to do. On the Colts side, for their defense, they've allowed 357.2 total yards per game. And that's 26th in the league. Passing yards per game, they've allowed 243.7. That is 23rd in the league. And rushing yards per game, they've allowed 113.5 per game. That's 19th in the league. and they've allowed 16 touchdowns this year, 7 receiving, 9 rushing for 96 points. They do have 1 fumble return, and they've got 18 sacks, so they're not doing horrible, but there definitely is some improvement over there on the Colts side. Turnover-wise, the Browns, they've only got 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles. No defensive touchdowns. And the Colts, they've got 4 interceptions and 4 fumbles, and one of those fumbles has been returned for a touchdown. Moving forward, let's go into the stat leaders for the Browns and the Colts game. For the Browns, we've got Deshaun Watson, Jerome Ford, and Amari Cooper. For the Colts, we got Gardner Minshew, Zach Moss, and Michael Pittman Jr. There's going to be a lot of running in this game. Just looking at that side by side with Jerome Ford and Zach Moss side by side. But for the quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson, unfortunately, he's not going to be in the game. But his stats, he's got 65 completions on 102 attempts, 678 yards, 4 touchdowns for 2 interceptions. So he's not doing too bad this year. Gardner Minshew, he's 90 completions on 138 attempts, 882 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So he's right there, even with his touchdown to interception ratio. And moving on to the running backs, which I feel are going to be the key of this game. Jerome Ford, he's got 67 carries for 270 yards and 1 touchdown. Zach Moss, he's got 96 carries, 466 yards, and 4 touchdowns. The receivers, Amari Cooper, he's got 22 catches for 367 yards and 1 touchdown. Michael Pittman Jr., he's got 40 catches for 406 yards and 1 touchdown. So, good stats there. Zach Moss, he's doing absolutely crazy. He's going absolutely crazy this year. And the funnier part about it is that he had that game where he popped off the week that Jonathan Taylor come back. Just like, oh no, you ain't getting this job back that easy. So he's out there. He's putting in work. But looking at the schedule, we got the Jags, Texans, Ravens, Rams, Titans, Jaguars. Colts have lost both of their games against the Jaguars, and they lost against the Rams. Now, the Texans, Ravens, and Titans games, they did win. So they ended up going against the Ravens, which was a good defense, and they won by 3 points. We'll have to see what it's going to be. I hold high regards to that defense this year on the Browns. Man, the Browns have a -8 turnover differential, and Colts, they're dead even on turnovers. 13 for 13 on extra points, perfect, and only 1 missed field goal for 46 points on the Colts side. 100 perfect for extra points and 12 for 14, 2 missed field goals on the Browns side, 41 points coming from Dustin Hopkins. So there is that. ESPN and Vegas both have the Browns favored. ESPN's got it 60%, and the Browns are favored by 3.5. The over-under is 41. And the Browns, their schedule, they've beat the Bengals, Titans, 49ers. They've lost to the Ravens and the Steelers. So we're gonna have to watch this game. This one might be a really good game to watch. I'll definitely be paying attention. This is my team. But for the injuries on the Brown side, Sione Takitaki, he is out. Deshaun Watson is questionable. Newsom's questionable. Harrison Bryant's questionable. Kareem Hunt is also questionable. Deshaun Watson has said that he is highly unlikely to play. Kareem Hunt is probably going to play. So it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of running today for the Browns, and I feel like the Colts are going to have the same effect just because of the fact that secondary is straight lockdown mode. But the Colts, their injuries, they got Grover Stewart that's on reserve. Alec Pierce or Anthony Richardson is on IR. Kylan Grayson and Braden Smith are rolled out, and Alec Pierce is questionable. So, again, Browns are favored in both ESPN and Vegas, and I'm going to go ahead and take that. But I don't see it. I see this being another close game, another mid-scoring game. We're going to go 21 points for the Browns and then 13 points for the Colts. Lock that in. 21 points, 21 Browns, 13 Colts. 21-13. Browns winning. And that's it. That's the last game for the noon games. And I hope everybody enjoyed the video. Again, hit that like button if you had fun watching. And explore the other content on my channel. Hit the subscribe button if you like the content. Hope everyone has a good Sunday. Again, thank you guys for watching. All my other subscribers, thank you guys too. I love and appreciate the support. Be kind and respectful to others, and most of all, be kind and respectful to yourself. You're the #1 person in this world, and no one matters more than you do. See you guys next time.